Alexis here, coming to you with an awesome sale of 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com. I provide services like digital art, logo designs, packaging designs, web designs, social media flyers, and much more. If you're an entrepreneur with a business or a startup company, make sure you take advantage of this opportunity, getting 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com.
Peace, family. I hope all is well. I hope your day is going well. I hope your what's today? Thursday. Hope your Thursday is going well. You know, it seems like these days you just like every day is like Monday now. Well, not really, because college football comes on Saturday. And you guys know I love college football, especially my Georgia Bulldogs. Go Dogs. We have a big game Saturday. We're playing who do we play Saturday? Florida, University of Florida, the largest cocktail party in the world in Jacksonville. So looking forward to watching that. We are without our star player, probably the best player in the country, Brock Bowers. But you know, hey, next man up. That's the motto. Next man up. Brock is out. Now it's all about next man up, next man stepping up, next man filling in for Brock Bowers. That means y'all got to step up. Some of you guys got to step up. And it's important because this last stretch of the season, we got Florida, Ole Miss, Missouri, which has a good football team, Florida, Ole Miss, Missouri, and Tennessee. So these next 4 games are going to be tough. Hold on, give me a second. Come on, focus. Come on. Come on, focus. There we go. Yeah, these next 4 games are going to be tough. I mean, they're going to be really tough. So we just got to get through these next 4 games unscathed. I'm not worried about Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech sucks. And it would be a travesty if we lose to Georgia Tech. They are garbage. So I'm not worried about Georgia Tech, but we definitely got to get past, Tennessee, Florida. I'm worried about Missouri. To be honest, I'm worried about Missouri. I think we have Ole Miss. I got to see. We might have Ole Miss at home. The Florida game is at a neutral site. Ole Miss versus Georgia. I know we have. I know we have Missouri at home. We have Ole Miss at home as well. So, like I said, man, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, 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 very interesting, man. These next, we got Missouri at home. So we got Ole Miss and Missouri at home. So that's good news. I'm worried about that away game at Tennessee, though. Tennessee has a good football team. Oh, shooter has just been killed. Oh, wow. Hold on. Let's find the news. Hold on 1 second. Oh, wow. Post a link to an article that shows the shooter has just been killed. Post a link in the chat. Put that on mute first. But anyways, before we get started, guys, we have a couple of announcements. We are rolling to Sierra Leone. November 21st to December 3rd. November 21st to December 3rd. We are rolling to Sierra Leone. Come and join us. Come and join us in Sierra Leone. We would love to have you, even if you're not eligible for citizenship. Again, even if you're not eligible for citizenship, please come and join us. We will love, love, love to have you all. Again, we will love to have you all in Sierra Leone. Yeah, they're already pushing the he had mental issues narrative. They're already pushing that he had mental issues narrative. They're definitely trying to push that. So So yeah. But November 21st to December 3rd, visit Danfo, DANFO.Africa. Again, please visit Danfo, DANFO.Africa to learn more. Citizenship is available to those who qualify. Again, citizenship is available to those who qualify. We're also going to Benin Republic in January. Benin Republic in January. Senegal in May for the Jazz Festival. In Nigeria in August for the Oshun Festival. So yeah, that's what we're doing, you guys. That's where we are going. That's what we're doing. So, without further ado, and make sure you go to Downfall.Africa to learn more. Here we go. Are you sure he was killed? And the guy, he was a firearms instructor in Army. Oh, he was shot. No, gunman shot and killed victims. Gun violence archive at least 18 killed. Yeah, I don't see anything saying that he was shot and killed yet. I don't see anything saying that he was shot and killed. But anyways, guys, listen, I don't know if you guys are aware of what's going on in Maine. Gunman bum rushes a bowling alley, kills 18 people. I've heard numbers from 18 to 22 people, injures around altogether 60. Everyone, be careful out there. Just be careful. People on edge. Excuse my language. Motherfuckers are crazy out here. Y'all, folks, excuse my language. Folks are crazy. You don't understand. Folks are out of their flipping mind. You got to think of the mentality just to go into a bowling alley where people are having fun, bowling, having a good time, enjoying themselves, eating popcorn or whatnot, eating junk food, chicken fingers. And here comes a loser that decides just because he's having a bad day, he decides that he wants to shoot everything up. Again, he decides that he wants to shoot everything up. Emeryville, California is now one of the most dangerous cities. Emeryville, that's the Bay Area. Yeah, the Bay Area is out of control. I was talking to somebody the other day from Oakland. They're trying to get the hell out of Oakland. They're like, yeah, they're trying to get the hell out of Oakland. Got a friend in Oakland right now. She was like, man, Dinas, I'm trying to get up out of here. They out of their damn mind in Oakland. Like, yeah, they're out of their damn mind in Oakland. So yeah, but I haven't seen anything that the shooter's been killed. Yeah, over 20 dead. Over 20 dead. People are on edge. So somebody said he was shot, but yeah, just protect yourself, protect your family. Vallejo's the same as Oakland. Vallejo's been off the Vallejo's been off the chain. I'm from Northern California. I'm from Sacramento. Vallejo has been off the chain. Vallejo has been off the chain. I'm from Northern California. That whole Bay Area corridor from Vallejo, Richmond, at one time East Palo Alto used to be wild. So yeah, Richmond, East Palo Alto, Oakland, What's the name of other little cities out that way? Man, there was another little city out that way that was just crazy. But guys, links in the chat room. Link is in the chat room. If you want to call in after the conversation, you can. Link is in the chat room. Here we go. I'm from Brazil. I will not live in USA again. Well, per ADOS, man, them immigrants trying to replace us. They all trying to come over here. Why should I go over there when they all trying to come over here? They trying to replace us. Richmond's been crazy. Richmond has been crazy. I'm trying to think of the other cities like that. Pittsburgh is crazy in the Bay Area. So you got Pittsburgh, you got Richmond, you got Oakland, you got East Palo Alto. This is wild. It's like when you're headed 80, that'd be 80 East. I'm from Sacramento. When you go 80 East, everywhere from in between like Davis until you get to Travis, it's cool. The minute you hit Vallejo and get into the Bay, hide your wife, hide your kids. Hide your wife, hide your kids. Once you get to the Bay Area, hide your wife. But what's interesting? Because last year, I think it was either earlier this year or last year, remember we had the mass shooting in Buffalo. And no one really wanted to talk about it. I mean, people spoke on it, but not the mass shooting in Buffalo. And like even with this mass shooting, if you notice, people on social media is not speaking on these mass shootings at the level as they were mass shootings in the past. So when you had the mass shooting at the church in South Carolina with Dylan Roof, I mean that was plastered everywhere. But then when you had the situation of Buffalo, people weren't really talking about it as much. And even with this situation now in Maine, people aren't really talking about it. It's like we're almost numb to it. Like if you look at people's timelines, they're not really speaking on the mass shooting. Like go on social media. Go on social media and just read people's timelines. They're not really speaking on the mass shooting that's taking place that took place in Maine like they were previous mass shootings. It's like we've been conditioned, we're so numb to it now. But guys, links in the chat room if you want to call in. Please call in. Somebody said the guy was shot and killed. I haven't heard that yet. I haven't heard that yet. But let's find the news report. Commercial. Uh-oh. And my laptop's about to go dead. Give me a second. Hold on, guys. And my laptop's about to go dead. Got the double whammy. Give me a second.
Also former FBI agent Brad Garrett now. So Brad, let's just talk about all the multiple agencies. And this is what happens in a situation like this. You've got the FBI, the ATF, the Marshals, all of that involved in this manhunt. Kind of talk to us about how this will play out. I know it'll be 24/7. And no doubt, if he's already abandoned his car, will they be looking at the waterways, deep into the woods? Tell us what you know.
So what you have to do is take all of these agencies and work them out of one command post. So everyone's clear about what they're doing. Who's going to grid search certain parts of the woods? Who's going to run the aviation unit, which is probably helicopters and planes, some with heat-seeking devices to see if they can see a body moving around in the woods. Also, planes a little higher up with binoculars in areas where they can see to see if they can spot him on the ground so they can send the tactical units in. But it's, everybody lays down sort of what agency they work for. And it's all sort of a common goal of, we've got to find this guy and hopefully take him to custody or just stop him, if that's what it amounts to. It takes a lot of coordination, and you also have to feed those people intelligence as you get it, because it can alter what they're doing and where they're doing it. So I've been in these command posts before. I mean, they're really, really hectic, but you've got to keep them going, and you've got to get the information out as you get it in. And I'm going to guess that as we move afternoon into evening, if he's not deceased, that they may well possibly find him. Now, I say that with a caveat of, is he still in the search perimeter? Because as you well know, in that upstate New York prison escapee that we talked about for several days, he kept getting out of the search zone, and that's why they couldn't find him. They were looking in the wrong place. So you always have to be cognizant of that when you do these things.
Just to get your insight on the whole mental health situation, you and I well know when things like this have gone down, you
see, they're already running with the mental health narrative. They are already running with the mental health narrative. Guys, links in the chat room. If you want to call in, click on the link.
you usually find out that there's been some sort of mental health record, either therapy or family members knew, or they had maybe been checked out for a day or two. But he was in a facility for 2 weeks. And he made threats. He was very vocal about voices in his head and things that he wanted to do that weren't right. I'm just curious, give us some background or some context to how he would have been allowed to be released, after 2 weeks.
So to Aaron's point, we don't know how he got there. There is some reporting, I'm not saying it's accurate, that he voluntarily went into 2 weeks of treatment and evaluation. Assuming some version of that is true, then they would run all sorts of tests, stick him in therapy. Some psychiatrists would do an analysis of his mental health stability, maybe even give him a diagnosis. I mean, this happens every day with people, Kara. The idea is, if he voluntarily went there, they can only hold him for so long. You'd have to get a court order to keep him beyond, let's say, the 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, they may have put him on medication and had conversations with him about delusions or whatever it is in his head that's telling him what to do. What are some of those things? Is it a threat towards a particular location or person? And then they're going to let him go. I'll tell you, the failing of the system is that nobody keeps up with those people like I would define keeping up with them. And so what happens is they go back into the community and they just sort of disappear. And maybe he's some version of that.
And have we heard anything about extended family or relatives, because so far as I've been scanning through, we're not hearing much with regard to anybody that was close to him or knew him very well.
Yeah, that part I don't know. There was early reporting last night. Again, I don't know if it's accurate, that some family member called the police to identify him. Now, maybe that's after they knew who he was based on locating the car. I just don't know. That'll be an interesting component, because intelligence and looking for people is to do extensive interviews of relatives or people close to them or people they live with, boyfriends, girlfriends, etc., to get pieces of information about where they would go if, in fact, they were on the run. For example, is there a cabin someplace or a lake he likes to go to, someplace that has meaning to him, because people tend to go where they have a history.
Well, we're going to keep tracking the manhunt. Brad Garrett, always great to have you. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel.
So the shooting was in Maine. Well, not necessarily so much as they got cameras everywhere, but maybe this place in part of Maine where they're at is a really real rural area, very small town. So, you know, you never know. They probably would never expect something like this to happen. Would happen. But yeah, they should. Let's see, such route is rich people mixed with industrial manufacturing collapse that looks like Gary, Indiana. So that's what's going on in Maine. Somebody said Gary, Indiana is about to be great again. I keep hearing people inject Gary, Indiana, like they're going to make Gary, Indiana great again. I mean, you never know. You never know. I keep hearing people bring up Gary, Indiana. I've been hearing this I've been hearing this for years now. That people are going to make, Gary, Indiana great again. People going to Gary, talking about how they're going to invest and do that and do this, do that, do the and the other, and revitalize it. Somebody said, "Oh, Philip says, haha, no way, it's over." That's not what I've heard, man. In fact, let me find a video real quick. I know Dame Dash was in Gary, Indiana, saying that. Here we go. Dame Dash wants to create a Wakanda City in Gary, Indiana. Hey, man, go for it. Beachfront property in Gary, Indiana. Okay, guys, let me give the disclaimer. Fair use. That's effed up podcast. Fair use. That's effed up podcast. Like, don't come in here and try to flag me. All right, I'm just giving my critique. Here we go. Dame Dash, Wakanda in Gary, Indiana. Here we go. And I like Dame Dash.
Right. And, when I first met Senator Eddie Milton, I knew nothing about Gary other than that the Jacksons was from there. Right. But there wasn't a conversation that he had that I didn't with him that wasn't about educating me about the richness of the culture and the injustices that have been done there and the opportunities that are there. So, for me, a person that's looking for a path to give our culture freedom and to, bring awareness to those that are really fighting for us and the history that if we could see it would make us want to be it. If you could see it, you want to be it. That's the new thing right there, And it was almost like I had been to Gary. So I started to go to Gary I hadn't even went yet, but we were looking for things to do to economically stimulate Gary. And it just felt like we were getting resistance. And he was a senator. And like, literally, he's the kind of cat that we could be in the studio, make a hook for a record, and he'll jump on there, rap on the record. But like, if someone, right? But like,
it's a new day.
I mean, this is what food.
It's a new day.
It's like, when food has black people is soul food.
Right.
This is soul politics.
I love it.
But what I'm saying is, like, I'll be in the office with like the CEO of like Mankind who makes insulin, and we express how expensive insulin was, and he wrote that shit up and made a law to cap insulin at a certain price. So he's a guy that, like, I'm like, wow, you could really see a problem and it could be fixed.
Right.
Other than just talking shit and fucking complaining and blaming everyone else for it. All this time, everyone that's been fucking complaining and talking shit about politics, I bet you none of them have lobbied for a law.
Never.
I bet you none of them have actually like talked to their city council or whatever representative and even tried to fix anything they're complaining about. So for me, it became important, number one, to get that.
Philip, go ahead.
What's up, Dynas?
What's up, Phil?
You made me come up here, brother.
Yeah, I know you're in Chicago, so you're not far from Gary.
Yeah, dude. Look, and I'm not trying to trash Gary. People are out there struggling, man. But one of the things that we got to deal with is the reality of using Black people to salt investments so that then big investments can be made. So you go in there and you try to build this place up, and then the big companies come in, and then now they're going to put some infrastructure after you put your sweat equity in it. But just some basic stuff on Gary, and I put it in the back chat here. Gary, Indiana has 13,000 buildings and structures that are abandoned, right? Including some of their most iconic structures. It's got something like 21 abandoned schools. It's got tons of boarded up houses. And the last time I went through there, and I you know, that's why I laughed. One of my coaches, when I was a junior player, a junior tennis player, he wound up taking over part of the sports facilities in Gary. And so a bunch of us that he had coached, we went and we drove out to Gary to go check him out, man. And when we went through downtown Gary, it looked like an abandoned town that people lived in. It was terrible. And it was so bad that I was just like, I don't know how they're going to recover. Basically, Gary was a factory industrial town. And when all the factories went away, that's why I said it's a sacrifice zone. Just like, and this is what's relevant to the Maine thing, just like Maine, that if you know, and I just happened to have been out there. I guess that was maybe about 2 years ago. And there are a lot of rich people that live in Maine, but there's a ton of manufacturing that used to be there for apparel and shoes and clothing. That whole eastern corridor of Maine, Vermont, not so much Delaware, Connecticut, parts of Massachusetts, that was all where we made clothing and shoes, and that was what that industry was. But now it's kind of hollowed out. That there are a lot of rich people that live there, but up under it is a lot of industrial workers that are struggling. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents on it. Is like, look, I'm from the Midwest, and there are specific problems that are national. And it's my view that this offshoring that we did in the 80s and 90s, it started in the 70s, but particularly in the 80s and 90s, really devastated these areas. And I think that what has to happen is federal money has to come in there to repurpose some of these places. So I'm gonna yield the mic to Harry Brewster so he can say what he's got to say.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm, just getting on, and I'm really not. I didn't hear what the discourse was of late. So I know you guys are responding basically about the events that with the shootings and stuff. So
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I just think that it's just a sign of where the country is, kind of, and some of the inner turmoil and kind of like inner turmoil, inner kind of sickness, and it just might be. To be honest, I kind of think that some groups might need to just step back and not get so close knitly involved with it, with the whole thing. But I do kind of feel like I kind of feel like people have the right to protect themselves, and but I also think that there has to be, that it's a hard thing to balance. It really is a hard thing to balance. I heard somebody saying from Europe, from some Europe countries, that anything that you use, if you get attacked or mugged, somebody tries to mug you and you pull out your pen, you pull out your pen and protect yourself, that you could get arrested for that. Or if you say, hey, I'm carrying my keys because I can use them as self-defense, you could get arrested for that, like in Europe. So that's like an extreme on the other side, so it's like, it's hard. It's a hard thing to really balance.
Yeah. Hey, Philip.
Yes, sir.
So from what I've heard in regards to Gary, Indiana, is that Gary was thriving. Then I guess they elected a black mayor, and then you had white flight, and that's why it is the way it is today. Is that true?
I mean, from a certain point of view, Gary was the first. I want to say the first, but I think maybe there was a place in Ohio that might have been first. But in any case, it was one of the first places to elect a black mayor. But it wasn't necessarily the black mayor that drove investment out of Gary. What drove investment out of Gary was it had U.S. Steel had a big complex out there that collapsed, and I would have to Google it, all the different factories that were out there. And as the factories went offshore, then it started decreasing population. And that's actually true of the whole Midwest, that as they started offshoring, then they lost people. Like, for example, you and I have chatted about Detroit. Detroit lost something like 1.3 million, 1.5 million people. So it's very hard to recover when you lose over a decade or so half of your population and half of your tax base. That would be my view of it. Is it wasn't necessarily that black people moved in, although white flight is a real thing. It was that the jobs that people had that were supporting the city dried up. And so what they've been doing ever since is borrowing money from Wall Street to make up for the infrastructure investment that they have to make to keep that place going. And so they wind up losing money because most cities are dependent on growing population, not decreasing population. That would be my argument.
Okay. Go ahead, Abdul.
What's going on, Dynast, and all the other guests on the panel? I was listening patiently, and I'm also from Chicago, and I recently moved to Gary, 2021.
Okay.
So I have more of an on ground, real time perspective of Gary, Indiana. Philip is off by a long shot as far as what he's saying about the prospects of investment in Gary. Gary actually, as far as a real estate perspective, is on fire as far as profits. My house I bought for 10 grand in 2020. My house, if I put it on the market today and it's not even fully repaired, I can get close to 100 grand for it. Fully repaired, 150. The Mexicans are pretty much moving into Gary as far as recently what I've seen. They're fixing these houses up overnight, selling them for like record profits. All you got to do is go on Zillow, put in Gary, Indiana, look up the the purchase prices, and what they sell for. So you don't have to take my word for it, but Gary is actually, some of the things that he said is true. Is a lot of depressed homes, a lot of problems with like poverty, stuff like that. But you also have people that are middle class, upper middle class, that live in Gary, as well as in Miller Beach. That's where the beach homes are. You got $1 million properties along the beach as far as Lake Michigan. So it's a lot of things. If you just listen to somebody else that maybe have a doom and gloom perspective or naysayers, unless you like go on the ground and actually do your research and kind of like go on a tour or you wouldn't know the half of what's going on, because it's basically Northwest Indiana itself is, as far as real estate, is through the roof as far as profits after basically the 2020 bubble. So people that move from Illinois, they move to Northwest Indiana. I mean, I wish I would have bought 3 or 4 properties, man. I really, I really didn't see this coming. I just was trying to find something that I could buy, that I could afford, and I could fix up. But I mean, it is so many people, man, that's making money flipping these properties. I mean, they're flipping properties that would probably be considered tear downs and just slapping house wrap on them, siding, new roofs, new doors or windows, and they killing it. And I'm not making this up. I'm seeing it. I'm going to Menards sometimes every other day, at least a couple times a week. They're building Gary. It's not perfect. Still a lot of issues, but that's what I could say. That's the God's honest truth. I live in Gary right now, real time. It is outside. I do see outside investors from other states. I was going through the neighborhood. I saw a guy actually that was from New York that flew in to do repairs on houses and fly back. And it's a lot of growth potential here, but it's a lot of issues, and I could talk to you about that. But as far as profit, as far as real estate, it is absolutely on fire.
So you're just saying, just in regards to flipping houses?
Yeah, I mean, not even just that. I mean, it's a lot of business potential because it's like a lower cost of living. So it's a lower cost as far as buying commercial and residential properties. And Gary is only 15 minutes away from Chicago via highway. It's got transportation routes that go right to Chicago, and then you right off Lakeshore, Lake Michigan. It's actually a hub. Gary is a hub before you get outside of Chicago and go to Detroit and go to the east. So it's a big trucking logistics hub. So it's a lot, and I already saw it. I knew it would, I saw the profit potential, and that's why I made the move I did. But like I say, I wish I would have bought way more properties than what I bought. That was my only mistake. I didn't buy enough properties because I'm talking about, for example, houses that like the windows and doors open, 2020, $1,500. Those same houses, they're trying to sell them for $15,000. A move-in property at that time, 2020, you could get in Gary 50 grand or a little bit more. Now you close to 100 grand for a move-in property in Gary. It's just I'm tripped out to see because I saw it in real time. But yeah, that's the nitty gritty as far as, like I'm saying, I'm in Gary. I'm also from Chicago, Chicagoland area. So I actually am seeing it. I'm not talking from just what I've heard or driving through or anything like that. I'm in the mix.
Okay, Abdul. So let's talk about this for a second, okay? Abdul, are you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, so what part of Chicago were you from originally?
I'm from the South Side.
What part of the South Side? I'm from Chicago originally.
Okay, what is that? What
I'm gonna go through the numbers and go through what I was talking about. I understand what you're saying, and what you're talking about is the lower tax rate between Indiana.
No, I'm not talking about no tax rate. I didn't mention anything about no taxes.
People are moving to Northwest Indiana because you can buy a home there for, I'd say, maybe a fifth cheaper than that same home in Chicago. And they have a whole growing community of gated areas that are in Northwest Indiana. I've been to Northwest Indiana. I've been to Gary. I go to Chicago maybe at least twice a month, maybe sometimes more. So I'm not just talking out of my behind. I actually have been where you are. That's why I asked you where in Chicago you came from to compare it to Gary, because here's where I'm coming from. That, and I put this in the back chat so you can see what the statistics are. The statistics say that Gary, Indiana, at its peak, had a population of 178,000 people. It has over 13,000 abandoned buildings. Nearly 20% of all the standing homes are burned down, or boarded up. Now, its standing population now is somewhere on the order, I had just seen the number. How many people are there now? I think it's 70,000. Yeah, it's
what you just ran off is like, I mean, a bunch of stats or something that's probably
well,
on Wikipedia.
but it's relevant, Abdul, because how do you pay your taxes?
Well,
and this is what I said.
This is what I'll say. What you're talking about is like more demographics. I'll just tell you this: go on Zillow and look up the prices of homes sold recently.
Abdul, you're conflating issues. He's talking about population. You're talking about homes.
What he's talking about is that there's demand for these homes because it's close to Chicago if you go to commute. And what I'm saying,
it's not so much because it's close; it's a variety of issues.
Where is the industrial base of Gary, Indiana? Are the people that are moving there, are they working in Gary or are they working in Chicago?
A lot of people like myself. Right now, I'm in Chicago. I'm working in Chicago.
Right. So you're taking Chicago money and carrying it back to Gary, correct?
Yeah. A lot of people live.
But that's
in
not.
That's
not
out of Illinois.
That's not how big cities work. If you are a big city that's growing,
New York works like that. A lot of
it's a tri-state area. But
a lot of people, what you're wrong because it's New York is literally a tri-state area just like that. A lot of people that work
right, but if you take New York,
they don't live in New York. They live in New Jersey.
If you don't have New York,
somewhere else.
If you don't have New York, nobody cares what's happening in New Jersey. They're taking New York money and they're going back into New Jersey with that money, and they're actually higher taxes in New Jersey.
You just answered your own
no,
question.
But it doesn't work the same way between Illinois and Indiana. Look, you guys are in a city, Gary, Indiana, where your industrial base, your taxes to keep your roads and your water and electricity was for a much bigger population. You have a population that's a third of that size. So the only way that you can make up for maintaining your roads, your electricity, your water is to go borrow that money on Wall Street. You need to understand it. It's cheaper to own a home there, but ultimately you're going to pay more because your population is not growing, it's shrinking. You need to get it.
See, that's the thing about the internet, and people just, like I said, I joined the panel because I'm in Gary, Indiana. I'm actually investing in Gary, Indiana. I'm not just some guy that's just spewing stuff off of Wikipedia. I didn't come on.
No, dude, I do this for a living. I do this for a living, dude.
I'm just spewing facts as far as, I say, I'm seeing.
Have you paid your first tax bill yet? Have you paid?
I pay taxes.
No, but have you paid your property taxes?
Yes, I pay my own taxes.
No, I'm saying you paid one
property, and then I'm talking about real time real-time statistics, stats that I see on the ground.
You're not understanding how these cities work, brother.
I'm
And
not talking.
I'm just trying to tell you.
I'm not trying to argue with you. You could say whatever you say, but I'm talking about what I'm actually doing. I'm not talking about something off of something of like I said, some stats. I'm telling you, basically, a Dynas was talking about is Gary, is people investing in Gary, is Gary profitable, is Gary on the rise. I came on the panel to let basically him know and other people that's listening. Yes, I'm seeing it in real time. People are making record profits. People are opening businesses. It's a slow progression, but I do see some type of positive progression. That's all I'm saying. As far as all of the stuff that happened, all of the history, I mean, I got my hands up about that. I'm just saying right now, my profit that I put into my house, I'm have the potential to make some money with that. And then other people are doing that, and definitely people from other countries are coming in here, putting in money, and they're getting returns. I can say, I mean, as far as all of the other stuff,
I'm not going to argue that.
I didn't really
But
got nothing to say.
I'm trying to tell you that that's a limited, specific thing, and what you're actually doing is you're taking Chicago money into Indiana. That's what you're doing, and you're playing off of the flip.
That's
Tell me that I'm wrong.
somebody right or wrong. I'm gonna just tell you like this.
We can't hear you. We're back.
I'm gonna just say it like this. Somebody's either right or wrong. I just say, as far as I'm telling you, you're definitely wrong. People are basically progressing as far as the potentials that Gary, Indiana have to offer. Like I said, if you don't take my word for it, like I said,
I take your word. I know what you're talking about.
You could go to Zillow. I mean, you could listen to other people talking about Gary, how they're making a return. You could look up property tax records, as far as just look up sale records. Like I said, Zillow has that data. Redfin. You don't have to take my word for it, bro.
Now, I'm not arguing that that's not true.
Yeah.
What I'm arguing is the bigger picture of what's true, which is that when you have expensive infrastructure, okay, and what's expensive? Roads are expensive. Water is expensive. Electricity is expensive. When you have expensive things like that to maintain, you have to have a tax base to support it. The only way that Gary was able to do it was to lose people, of which they've lost over 100,000 people from their peak. So then if you lost all of those people, how are you paying for the infrastructure that still is there? And that's what I'm telling you. They're going in the bond market to Wall Street and borrowing the money that they're short from the people not being there, hoping that people will move there. So that's why they invested, for example.
I don't disagree with that. I would totally believe that.
Well, you know it to be true because you see the result.
But what I'm saying is, like for example, it's just certain things. Like if you go to a city, you can tell they're building because you can look at you can count the cranes. Like you go from Chicago, you see cranes, you see building. You see a lot of growth. Well, on a renovation level, like you mentioned, a lot of those abandoned houses. Gary does have a lot of abandoned houses, say with Detroit. What you will see is a lot of rollaway dumpsters, like I say in the chat, and you see a lot of that in Gary, where that's an indication that people are taking basically old stuff out and demolition of the property, then getting it ready for renovation. You see that all over. I'm seeing that all over when I drive around, and then you see houses that were pretty much almost tear downs, and they fixing them up and putting them on the market, and people are moving into them. I'm talking about just even on my block, like it was a house that was just kind of just sitting, and it was for sale for 17 grand. Mexican real estate rehabbers was working on it for like a year. That house is new, all this, everything is new inside out. They put it on the market. It's for 160. I haven't looked at it lately as far as it being sold, but it most likely will sell because a lot of people are moving to Gary because, like you said, people can't afford, Chicago, other areas. They'll be able to afford Gary, and that's what they're doing. I mean, even my sister, she just recently bought property. It's they're buying, man. That's all I can say. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
I think we actually agree. We just are on.
Well,
different...
I'm just saying that I don't disagree with what what you're saying as far as what the abandoned houses. What I'm trying to tell you is that I guess it's like a kind of a cross of what we're discussing is that I'm saying that people are buying those abandoned houses and rehabbing them. Not all of them, but I mean, I'm one person that actually did that, and it's a lot of people that have bought some and they're rehabbing them or sitting on them for to see what they're gonna do or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it is a profit potential that people have made a lot of money. Like I said, in Gary, they're still going to. And another thing is, a lot of times when I find a lot of Hispanics come in and work on properties, that's a sign, that it's some kind of things going on as far as gentrification or a lot of property building. So they're working, they're working in Gary. So
okay, I think maybe I can put this together so that what you're saying and what I'm saying go together, because we actually are kind of talking past each other, and I'm not disagreeing with you that there is a potential for people to come into Gary, Indiana, buy a home that's inexpensive and renovate it and possibly flip it or hold it, whichever, and make some money. I'm not disagreeing with that. And I'm not disagreeing that many people from Chicago and the surrounding areas that are working in Chicago go to Northwest Indiana to buy a home because it's less expensive to do that. That's a fact.
That
right?
That was a fact, but actually now that fact is pretty much grayed out, because now the homes are in a lot of cases like towards the border, like Hammond, Sherville, Griffith, and stuff like that. The homes are even more expensive than you would in Illinois.
Yes, so because they developed it. Yes, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, now it's not even, you can't even do that. Like, that's not even possible.
I agree.
The prices have skyrocketed way beyond it's almost, I would even say, because I'm primarily from the south suburbs of Chicago, while people were looking at Illinois, they took their eyes off of Indiana. And a lot of people moved to Indiana, and the prices are just absolutely skyrocketing. And you used to be able to just move, go across the border and get some cheap real estate in Indiana. No, that's not in 2023, October 26th. That's not a reality anymore. Because of the prices, and of course because of the interest rates on the mortgages as well. So
okay, so what you were saying there, again, we agree, and what I was trying to do was to point out the cycle and to show you why I was saying what I was saying, because we don't disagree on any of that. You just said,
I was coming in because you was kind of,
I was bashing.
No, you was coming with some kind of doom and gloom, and I had to say, wait, hold up.
Wait a minute. This is what I would
somebody would take what you say, and they would just scratch Gary off their list as far as a potential.
Well, it depends on what their goal is.
I had to come in and correct you a little bit and
Okay, well, hear my point again, so that we can come to a mutual agreement or understanding. Okay, what I said, because Dinus raised the point, people are saying Gary is coming back, and that Gary will come back. And what I said was, what I saw there was a lot of blight in the downtown area and beyond. I then backed that up by saying, at its maximum point, Gary had just under 200,000 people, 178,000 people. It's lost 70,000 of those people. So it only has 100,000 now. So it was almost 200,000. It lost about half of its population. So for that being doom and gloom, if you lose half of your population, that is significant. Then I came back and I said, and this is what I'm trying to get you to understand. In order to make up for that 100,000 people, more or less, that they lost, the 70,000.
No, I understand what you said. I said that.
Okay, so you get that. You have to borrow it. So let's look at it. Hold on, so we can get on the same page. So you have to borrow because the same infrastructure for that extra 100,000 people was there. So you put that on the credit card. Let's look at it that way. You put that on the credit card to pay for the infrastructure that's empty, right? That is blighted, that is not in use. The only way that you can pay for those structures that are still there, you got to borrow it, right? So then you borrow that money and you hopefully invest in things that will draw people to come. So what did Gary do? They built a casino, they built a couple of hotels and things like that, right? But at some point, and this was my point to you, the bill comes due because you were still down 100,000 people. So you either add the people back, right, to break even, or you got to pay higher taxes, right or wrong.
I'll say right. Definitely. But what I'll say is that it's not a doom. It's not a doom and gloom situation.
But what happened?
I would say that it's more like, kind of like, yeah, it's depressing. I would admit it is a lot of like areas in the city of Gary that's very depressing and abandoned, but it is some progression. Like if it was no progression, then I'd be like, you know what, really can't say nothing. I mean, you know, it is what it is, you know. But you know, I'm like I said, it is absolutely progression.
Okay.
You know, I'm actually living it. You know.
Look what Ruby just put. It's actually a lower number than what I was citing. I was giving it 100,000 people. She's saying as of 2023, Gary, Indiana, has 65,000 people. Now I don't know what her source is, but if you went from 178,000 people, almost 200,000 people, to 65,000 people, is that growing or shrinking?
I mean, I've already, you know, the stats as far as the population shrinkage, that's happened after they closed the steel mills.
But that's what I said. So what you disagreed with was what?
I didn't disagree with that. I just said basically, if you just looked at the stats as far as what you get on Wikipedia and then come in it with bring some doom and gloom in there, it's not reality of what's actually going on. What I'll say is going on from being on the ground is a slow progression, not an opposite direction. It's not if it was an opposite direction, I probably wouldn't join the panel or have anything much to say, because it would just be, I'll just say, oh, well, yeah, you guys are right. It's just some doom and gloom situation where, yeah, you just buy a property and then, you know, it's just gonna catch on fire, and the best thing you could do is hope to get some insurance money. No, it's not like that. You know, it's a lot of people that's making money.
Brother, I support exactly what you're saying, that Black people come in there, or whoever,
Yeah.
and to make money on the appreciation upward, if they are so inclined and so skilled to be able to do that. I'm not against that. And I'm not saying that that's not possible. I agree with you there. What I am saying, however, though, is that they lost so many people that the times that I've gone through there, because I do not, like you, live in Gary, Indiana, that I saw most of the downtown was still boarded up from that loss of people. They lost over 100,000 people. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, look, at the end of the day, Abdul, I want you to do well, brother. And I support you making money, and I support you encouraging people to come and make money in Gary. On the other hand, I would encourage you to think long term, to say when the tax bills start to come due, or a little bit before, maybe you want to sell. Because what they're doing is they're borrowing this money to build up this area. And what I had said to Dynas before you came on is, unfortunately, this is what happens with our people a lot, that they allow it to get to a level by letting the poorest of us go in a community, and they get no infrastructure support, no ability to borrow, et cetera, et cetera. And so the value of the property goes down. Then they have us come back in and salt the soil to help grow that place back. And then right before you came on is exactly when I said this, that I said, then the big industrial investors will come in when you've done all the legwork and you got a big tax bill now. So I'm not against what you're saying. I think we're kind of saying the same thing. But as far as them coming back to the level of 178,000 people, do you see that as real?
Well, that's why I say I see a slow projection. As far as what it coming back or Detroit or anything like that. To be honest with you, I honestly, this is just, I mean, kind of realistically what I see. Probably both you and me in our lifetime, we probably won't see Gary be like it was before. It'll probably be the Gen Zers or Generation Alpha that would have to probably carry on that torch. But I do, like I said, I do see a positive projection. I mean, it's slow. It's you can notice it. I'm not, I'm sure I'm not the only person that's lived in Gary or whatever, or is there now. And maybe somebody else can chime in, because I'm not from Indiana, and no, I do not have plans on any long-term investment like that. But I'll just say that I see a slow positive projection. And like Dane Dash is saying, I mean, where there's potential, there's profit. You know what I'm saying? So that's
okay. I think we both are on the same page. The point I was trying to make to the Maine is we got all the way off into Gary. I think Dinah was.
Well, that's what he was playing. He was playing video.
So, but this is the point I was trying to make, that in Maine and in that eastern corridor, where just like in the Midwest, where it was steel and other manufacturing, in the eastern corridor was actually clothing and shoes and apparel manufacturing. And so the same kind of empty factories that you have in Gary and throughout the Midwest, you have that on the eastern corridor. And so what you've got out there in the East Coast is you have a lot of rich people that have been there for generations, but then up under it, you have all of these people that are struggling, that used to work in clothing and apparel, and now they're desperate because the work isn't there, just like it isn't there in the Midwest. And so you have situations where people then snap and they go on these shooting sprees, but it's not unpredictable. It's part of the process when you deindustrialize an area. And that's the point that I was making with Gary, was to say
that shooting situation, I'm not gonna tie that into some lack of
It's the same deindustrialization.
That's
It's the same.
That seems like that has the calling cards of like some like white incel type of behavior, violent behavior, not having any family, not having anything to lose, and just getting your AR-15.
Well, this is the mental health argument,
and just going off somebody's manifesto or something like that.
Okay, why do you think that this stuff keeps happening? You
Like
think
I said,
that
these people are
mental? No, man, it's a structural problem. It's a structural problem of if you don't have consistent and stable economy, then people are more likely to fall into mental illness. It's that simple. If you have a community that's vibrant and functioning and you're doing well with your economics, with your household, you're less likely to go and shoot up a place. Right? That's just common sense.
I ain't gonna give nobody no excuse as far as I'll say he probably a lot of these guys are mentally ill, but
they just came out mentally ill, or they were under stress.
I think they're socialized. I think they're being socialized to behave like this. Because it just seems to be a pattern. Like I said, a lot of these guys, they don't have anything to lose. They don't have a family. They're not hitting it with the women like that. So, it just seems to be a pattern. And I'm sure FBI has some type of pattern as far as what a lot of these shooters fit in. But why they do it, they don't have a job. I think they're not even socialized. A lot of these young people have an issue with even going out to even talk to somebody in a job interview, let alone get a job. So you got a lot of socialization issues. But I'll have to say that I don't really have anything much to say about that. I'll let y'all chime in on that.
Well, I listen. All I was trying to throw to you was to say that many of the things that are being experienced in the Midwest are also happening in the East Coast. That Abdul dropped off, I guess. That was my issue, Dynas, was people say this is coming back, that's coming back, but if the numbers say that at your peak you had 200,000 people, and then now you have 65,000 people, it does not mean that you cannot make money in that opportunity, I guess, but you are far from your peak, and your likelihood to say that you're coming back is, I don't know, right? I mean,
and Philip, how's the weather in Gary? I'm sure it's terrible.
Well, it's similar to the weather in Chicago. I mean,
okay,
yeah. Like you said, it's about 15 minutes away. So like when you're over by the lake, you can see Gary from across the lake, and I'm saying Lake Michigan, right? You can drive there or catch. A lot of people, as we were talking about, live in Northwest Indiana and commute into Chicago to work. So, look, man, I'm not hating that brother's shine, and I'm happy he's doing well and made a good choice for his family. And I encourage people to do that. I never want to crap on people doing good things. But, which is, I'm going back to where we started, this whole talk about it's coming back. What does that actually mean? People say it, like Dame Dash is there, and look, it makes sense for him to go and promote where he put investment, right?
Right.
He's going to come, and I want to say the girl that's on whatchamacallit, the Breakfast Club, whatever her name is, the half Asian.
Oh, Angela
Yee.
Angela Yee, yeah.
She has invested and is very public about investing in Detroit. Okay. A lot of people want to invest in in Detroit and do. But the question is, you know, like I said, Detroit lost something like 2.1 million people, something like that. Is what is the value of that investment? Now, does that mean they're not developing Detroit? From what I understand, they're building up the downtown area, but that they have large swaths of the city that are just vacant. And they're considering, as the last time I read about it, to make that parkland. So my question back to you, Dynas, is what does coming back actually mean when you're considering that?
Yeah, but what's like why Detroit and why are people so obsessed with Detroit and Gary? No, nothing against Detroit and Gary, but why?
Well, in both cases, Detroit was a Black epicenter in the 50s and 60s. There was a lot of Black success in Detroit. And during the factory mill period, Gary, Indiana was also an area where the Black middle class was built. Because if you had two Black factory workers, working as husband and wife, that they were able to stack some money and buy a home and quote unquote live an American dream. But that reality has changed dramatically from that. As these look, the Black middle class was built off of factory work. That's just a reality. So, in fact, the stat that I go to often is in 1968, a Black family of factory workers, meaning husband and wife, were $5,000 in income lower than a Mzungu family of factory workers. So we were just, in terms of what they talk about income inequality, we were just $5,000 apart. So essentially they were earning the same amount of money in 1968. That's how well Black America was doing. If you look at it now, which I know you've seen these stats, we've shared some of them, that it's miles apart, right? So I think that the obsession is because we did at another point in time have success there.
Okay.
I think I'm guessing, but this is what I think that we had success, and so we what do they call that? Where we reminisce about where we were.
Somebody
right?
in the chat room said people are obsessed with Detroit because people make a good living with little to no education. They can't keep that information. Is that true?
I have no idea. Maybe they should come up and explain that.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, Superstar Bello, come explain that. The broke genius putting money where my mouth is. Thank you for the super chat, brother. It means a lot. Links in the chat room. Come and expand on that. And let's finish some more of this Dame Dash interview.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to what I was doing, but thanks, Titus.
Okay, no problem.
Mayor and help him get that mayor out of there,
Right.
because he was stopping economic development within our culture, at least from my perspective, from an outsider looking in. And I knew that if he got in there, that not only would he like do what's right, but do it in a way that was forward thinking with respect to the history. You know what I'm saying? Because that's all he talks about. Because he's a smart dude. He could be a CEO of any company or run his own or consultant. Because that's what he was like, yo, I could go get this money. But but I can't leave Gary. And I'm like, well, we're gonna stay in Gary. Let's do something, help everybody. Let's get some money. Let's get some.
Yeah, let's figure it out.
It's like Black Ukanda. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So anyway, he did like a marketing campaign out there that was similar to a campaign for an album or a movie. So
Wait, I know you had a hand in that, Dane.
Well, I designed the creative, but actually the like when I went, he had every billboard and every yard sign. They had an album with videos from everybody around saying, "Get ready for Eddie. Get ready for Eddie." Like,
I love it.
They had records. And he came in there when we was going down the day of, because, after we had the plan, he was like, yo, we're going to announce it you know, because he helped open a casino, and he announced his he was running, and I announced it. I introduced it, and then on the day of, I came through, and we went to that's the polls where they vote.
Yeah, the poll.
The people that were there to support the other dude with the shirts were taking their shirts off and taking pictures with us. and I got all that shit documented. So, you know, now that that's happened, he's made a lot of promises, or at least said he's going to do certain things, and he's a man of his word. And, you know, all it's about is really right now what the first 100 days look like. And with that, I'm going to just pass it on. But I just feel like it's important. Like, I know the last time I was here, I don't remember what I said, but I know I was talking some big shit. And more than likely, my thing is, we all know the problems. Talking about problems without solutions is just trying to trigger somebody and depresses everybody. We have to come with solutions.
Right.
So whatever shit I was talking, here's a solution. Here's an example in real time. No PTSD of complaining about getting abused, but what it looks like to actually solve a problem.
I love it, Eddie. I know you. I was trying to kind of understand your story, and when you were explaining to me, it's like mind blowing. So I just wanted you to like kind of share your story and also talk about your relationship with Dane.
Yeah, man. Growing up in Gary in the early '90s, a lot of folks may know Gary, quote unquote, as that murder capital of America.
I knew it as that,
frame, right?
That's all everybody knows.
Yeah, that's
so. I mean, it's two things, and I'm not even going to dwell on that because I'm here to change the narrative on the city, but I have to tell people that story to let them know from where we're going to come from, right? The article, The Morning I Won, had a quote: "Gary's going to rise like a phoenix out of the ashes," and I truly believe that. When you look at a city that was built because of one of the world's largest companies, U.S. Steel, that city is 52 square miles. At one point, we had nearly 200,000 people, and right now we have 69,000 people.
All the white people ran off.
Right? So
fucking white people.
And they took the banks. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
But that's part of that history, right?
Yeah.
Gary, the turnaround in this is why Dane playing a role. Gary's gonna be one of the greatest comeback stories in American history. Just like Detroit, just like Youngstown, Ohio. At one point, it felt like the world turned its back on that city. Right? The same city that produced Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, Janet Jackson, Big Dog, Glenn Robinson, and so many others is the same city that's standing today. And with the issues that we hit, you know, from our economy, from white flight, the term that was coined in the early late 60s, to the city that had the first Black mayor in the United States of America, that had the first Black national political convention in 1972.
But hold on. First, that political convention, there's a documentary, and it's so gangster.
It's called Nation Time.
Everybody that was doing anything Black was there.
Yeah,
that was like what you would look at and be proud and be like, damn. And they don't even show the visuals of what it looked like and how strong we looked and how cool. Like, who was there? Because I was looking at it, was like, everybody was there.
Now, keep in mind, this is right after the assassination of Dr. King. Coretta Scott King was there. Betty Shabazz, wife of Malcolm X, was there. Jesse Jackson, Harry Belafonte. Every national Black leader.
But like the Jacksons,
the Jacksons performed. They were little kids. They were just getting into
was
their
James
fame.
Brown there? It was like a bunch. It was like,
I think James Mayer came. Yeah. So again, they mixed the culture with politics at that time still.
But did you know about that?
I didn't know about that.
Did you know about that? Nope. Now, why wouldn't we know about that? Because it's such a strong thing in our culture that they don't want us to see.
But I really think that, I don't know if they want to share that.
That's what I just said.
Because if they do share that and we do realize that we can create change for ourselves, then it gets real different for them.
Rewind real quick. Not only will we make change for ourselves, we'll make change for everybody. It's not a color thing. It's an economic, social class thing, and they keep us divided to keep us broke. It's a 1% versus a 99% thing. That's Black and white. You understand? There's a lot of broke white people out there and a lot of broke Black people. But Black people have just caught a little more of a raw deal because we're not from here. We're imported. You understand what I'm saying?
And you even see it in schools and legislation where they don't want us to teach certain quote unquote history.
Oh boy, Dame said we're not from here, we're imported. Here comes team. We aboriginal to America. We the original Americans. We was here when Christopher Columbus came and said he saw dark-skinned people. Here they come. When the British came, they saw we was already here. We indigenous to Gary, Indiana.
I had to fight a fight, and actually the OSG helped me fight a fight. Off school grounds, they tried to stop teaching Black history in the state of Indiana.
Wait, no, you want to know why? They said it made white people uncomfortable to know what their grandparents did. And they also, hold on, he called me tight. He said, yo, Black people don't respect education, so they don't deserve it. Wow.
It's so many narratives.
Like
in a lot of
that's
folks.
mind blowing.
Bro, no,
somebody said that out loud.
He be on the floor like, ho, now watch your mouth. Like, it gets crazy in there. It ain't no joke.
That is
like you should send him some of this shit. Like he be in there like, yo, I'm a senator, but I might have to fuck somebody up. For real, they be like unloosening ties and all that shit. I'd be like, yo, you want me to come down there?
Hey, at the end of the day, if you want to make change, you got to change policy. You got to change laws. Long-term substantive change in our communities, economics, quality of life, environment. We have to play in that field. If we just sit back and act like just let them do it to us, then it's going to happen to us. That's where I just picked up the ball and I said, fuck it, I'm going to just jump in. And that's when I started to run. In 2016, I was on the State Board of Education. I didn't even want to do it at that time. It was Governor Mike Pence. Mike Pence appointed me, and I turned it down. So he kept calling. They reached out. They had to appoint a Democrat. So I accepted it at the end of the day, became a State Board of Education member. And that's when I learned. They told me, if you want to know what's going on, follow the money. And when I started following the money and realizing the reason why they're testing our children so much is because somebody making money off the books, somebody making money off grading the tests, somebody making money off making the tests. I said, I get it. I see where we're going with this now. So I ran 2016, same year, Trump was on the ballot, Hillary's on the ballot. That's on election night, I had mixed emotions because I had won. And at the same time, I knew like, damn, what's about to happen to the country? So that was my first year.
That's amazing.
What's really fucked up is how politics are ran in general in this country in a two-party system. You don't think? That's my biggest problem with our country's politics is either you're Democrat or you're Republican, and I think people blindly vote because of that.
Well, that's the purpose of doing that, is to divide.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. If me and you are fighting for the same block together and it's good, if I hear that you fighting, I'm not going to like fight against you. I'm going to fight with you. We all fighting for the same country. So to fight, to do something, to have a war, to fix a war will never, ever mean there'll be anything but war. And that's a strategic thing. Is any division, even in that same conversation, because what I like what he does is, as a person, you can't know everything about everything. But if you're going to deal with a certain subject matter, he's going to go do the research. So when he gets on that floor, he's karate kicking motherfuckers. For real. So that's why he listens. So it was about education. He called Dennis, who runs the OSG, which is like 200-300 principals. And before this conversation, I would have said Black principals. But he was like, you got to stop saying Black principals because it puts us in a box. They already know we're going to say Black principal. And it scares people. It's economically challenged because it's not about black and white. It's about broke. Right. It's broke people. You know what I'm saying? Period. And in that conversation, I also learned that people are scared of what they don't know. So in that conversation, Dennis was like, so y'all trying to put a curriculum up there. Well, where's the curriculum? Has anybody seen it? No, it's not made yet. So that's why everybody's scared. They don't know what it is.
This is how much money YouTube has been paying me for a brand new YouTube channel that only has 400 subscribers.
All right, you guys, with that being said, I appreciate everyone for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family, be safe out there. Peace.